Welcome to Two Psychics. This is Michael Edley, evidential medium and mystic, discussing all things spiritual.
Hello, I'm Mary Amy of Two Psychics, an intuitive wisdom coach, tapping into your mystical life and sharing messages I receive about you.
Hello, my wonderful co-host.
What is up? What's going on?
So here we are tonight. It's episode 50 and it is May 8th. Welcome to Two Psychics. I'm Mary Amy, an intuitive wisdom coach. This is Michael Edley, an evidential medium and visionary. And so tonight we have a topic, energy transmissions, and we have a wonderful guest that's joining us, Riya Loveguard, who's a light language and Starseed activator and Galactic Activator linguistic. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? What is light language? And she's going to share with us. And if you go to her website, you'll be able to get a light language course for free. She has many free courses, and she's learned over at least minimum 20 light languages. And we're talking about starseed languages like Andromedan, Pleiadians, extraterrestrial language. Michael, what's going on the Jersey Shore? How are you tonight?
I am doing fantastic. Can you see I have my green coffee mug with me tonight? So that means I need a little caffeine. I've been going nonstop. It's funny right now. The energy feels like I'm moving at like a speed of fast forward. It's been very interesting. It's good. It's a good flow. But I have to remind myself sometimes to kind of slow down, be present, the different things that we talk about, understanding, we can put the energy out there that we want, we can be present in the way we choose. And I think that's very important to be very mindful of your energy. And it's interesting. We talk about energy transference. And right now, we have to be very aware of the energy and how the energy is transferring to and from, so it's very interesting. But yeah, I'm doing well. Everything is kind of moving it fast forward, and I have my coffee, so everything is good.
I'm wearing my Bigfoot t-shirt.
Nice. There you go. All right.
Yes. And
you ready to go squatching? We're gonna do some squatching.
Yes. She's entered the waiting room, so we're gonna just let me just say hi to her. Send her a message because she's overseas. I don't even know where. Message. I'll just message her and say, I'll say hi. Can't see where HI. Hi. Yeah. So she's overseas. So about energy transmissions. I would like to talk about that. And before I do, I just would like to remind everyone some of my earlier work, I guess you could say. So I started out when I met Michael, 2015, I had then written this book, The White Light Prophecies, and I went under the name Blue Butterfly. And I was really focused on nature, and I was focused on your energy field, which I'm bringing that up tonight because we are going to talk about energy transmissions. So in the book, I have this chart and I explain how to create your own energy field. And I'm just going to tell you in a nutshell. So basically what my theory is that we can clear out our own energy field, which is, they name it our aura. They also name it, from what I understand, it's called also a biofield in science. Our science field calls it that. And so this was my idea, was that if I was to, you can keep your eyes open, but if you were to stand somewhere outside and you were to visualize in front of you completely white light. So if you're good at visualizing, so you could do it with your eyes open or your eyes closed. So maybe you start with your eyes closed and you visualize light all in front of you, as far as you can imagine, all the way to the horizon. And then you also imagine it behind you all the way to the horizon. and on each side of you and above you and below you. So you're clearing all of the negative energy around you. And so I go through these steps, and then I talk about after you clear it, then you bring into the energy field what you want, maybe nature, maybe a specific person. You also have a mantra, and you say something like, I will only allow positive people and positive situations into my life. And I call this a white light energy field in 5 steps. And eventually what happened for me was I started to, I would say, be more positive, and a lot of the negativity left, and it helped me. So I'm just saying that because it was of value to me. So if you want to get my book, you can get it on Amazon, The White Light Prophecies, and I talk about some of my earlier experiences. And then before I get on to what Michael's going to tell me, I'm going to tell you about, I wrote this children's book. And that's why I have all these gems here, is I literally have hundreds of these gems because I had made these little sacks up, and it's about Earthly who goes on his journey, and he collects these 6 gems, and they all represent a different virtue. And so that I had like a professional artist, you can see, and that was really fun. And now I'm just working on the Miracle Healing Continuum. I'm doing the illustrations. And I've been working on that, and that's brought me a lot of happiness, I could say, because I've literally been releasing my stuff in the book and telling little stories, but sharing about your chakras, about energy fields, about psychic abilities, about situations I'm in, like, for example, doing this podcast. And I think that from time to time we forget our accomplishments. So I'm just saying some of my accomplishments because it helps me to have more confidence and, not overlook that I am, even though what I've done is kind of a niche area, it's valuable. It's valuable, and it's all about healing and love.
Yeah, we do. We need to remind ourselves,
We
and
do.
I think it's a good reminder, of what we're capable of, what we want, the direction we want to be in, and all that stuff. If we get caught up in the day-to-day, rigmarole of life, we forget sometimes, what we've done, and we don't want to dwell in the past, but I think it is good to remind ourselves too of, things we've accomplished, things we've navigated, things we've gotten through. And when we allow ourselves to process that, I think a lot of times, we can, in retrospect, go, wow, I navigated that much better than I thought I could, or something that I didn't feel I could have navigated, I was able to navigate and get out on the other side of it. So those are always good reminders, in addition to, reminding of what we're capable of. But yeah, the art aspect of creating and art. And, for me, it's my music and writing music. But I find so often when any type of creative person stifles that creativity, it's almost like it bursts out in other ways. And sometimes, sometimes it could be, how we react to other people, or, a situation or a circumstance. And I think when we can process it into art, or some type of creativity, writing, music, dance, whatever that may be for anyone that's listening, I think that allows us to process things in a very creative and positive way. And it's interesting because I think we can take, if we're dealing with like negative energy or negative circumstances, when we can process it in that way, sometimes we can actually take that energy and create something really beautiful from something really negative. And that's why I like to look at it, and I think some of the most interesting and fantastic art that we've seen throughout human history has happened after someone has dealt with or had some type of aspect of like deep grief in their life. And it's very interesting how sometimes that really stirs up, I need to do this. And sometimes it's things like that shake us up at times. And we need that to propel ourselves forward. And I find, creative people, when they stifle that creativity, it isn't good. It isn't good for any aspect of our well-being. That's why I tell everyone that, that would come to me for a reading, or anyone I'm doing workshops or anything with, is find some time, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, or, a half hour a week, whatever it is, as long as you allow yourself that time, it allows you to process, those emotions, that energy, and you can do something with it. And something beautiful usually comes from it, or at least it opens to something beautiful.
Yeah. And you can find an aspect of yourself you didn't realize that you had through creativity, and you can dig deeper than you would in something more linear. And I don't know, you can start to find a love, because I totally believe that everyone should do something creative in their life. And
Well, what's crazy is, think about how transformative it could be for someone that's like shy or introverted, but they have this crazy talent and they break through. Like, so what always comes to mind when I think about, and I'm gonna like really date myself now, but if we go back to like 60s rock, and we think about, 60s, 70s rock, we think about the Doors, Jim Morrison. And Jim Morrison couldn't he couldn't perform on stage and look at people. He couldn't watch them, because it would cause him to basically freeze up, and he couldn't sing and couldn't remember words. For a period of time, when he first started singing on stage, he had his back towards the audience, and he would start singing. And one day, and I don't know the exact time and how long he was singing with his back to the audience, but one day it just kicked in on stage. He turned around, and it literally just lit him up, and it was boom, that was it. And then, the rest was history. But it's interesting, and it was interesting hearing different like interviews and stuff of him talking about how he was so introverted, and so, but his creativity led him, and he couldn't not allow himself to not do it. So he had to overcome, that deep fear of performing in front of people, of, like public speaking, that type of thing. So yeah, I think that creative outlet can definitely allow us to transcend obstacles. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
and sometimes we're fearful of not being approved of or validated,
Yes.
and you can't do that. You just have to keep
Mhm.
moving, because what's so great is when you get something raw and original, no one
Yeah.
else has done it. You don't
Yeah.
want to be a copycat. You want to just come from it within and create.
Yeah,
And
that's where the really special stuff happens. That's it. When we're not worried about that, and we're just purely doing it for the art or the creativity, or whatever it may be. Yeah, that's where that's the special sauce. Definitely is.
so, Michael, this is kind of interesting. We have a lot of upcoming guests, and
Mm.
we have some fun ones, some really fun ones. Like, so tonight, we have Riya Loveguard. So it's light language, and she's a Starseed activator. And I'm going to explain all about her before we do or after we do our topic. But I had interviewed years ago Daniel Allen Jones, and he's this UFO way back when it wasn't cool. I guess you could say speaker and investigator, and he said he agreed he'll do the show. He's in Texas. I just have to get that squared away. But next week we have Stacy Schaefer, and she does mediumship, energy healing, and channel guidance. And then we have three ladies coming up, but I don't know what day it's going to be. I haven't squared that away. We have Colleen Olson, Mystic and Sacred Beauty, all about the beauty and things. Stephanie Potter, who's a spiritual channel and intuitive guide. Amy Robinson, who's a healer. And a few of these have contacted me. And then we have an upcoming interview we're going to be on someone's podcast, sort of
Hey.
our podcast, and he's all about leader coping skills. So he found us somehow, and he's asking, and you agreed, so we're going to do that, and we'll let everybody know, and hopefully I'll be able to get a copy of that. Okay, so tonight, since we're talking about light language, I thought that it was valuable to mention this topic, energy transmission. And what exactly is energy transmission? Energy transmission is energy that is transferred between people, biofields, thermal, electrical, mechanical, electromagnetic. And our energy carries, our energy, because we're passing energy back and forth, carries emotions and feelings, and we have a personal ID. Our energy is a personal ID. That's why when you walk into a room or you speak to someone, instantly you'll sense like, okay, you know, this person, I vibe with their energy, or you don't, because we all have our own energy ID. And we as psychic intuitives and those that are set as exceptionally sensitive or practiced it, because a lot of people that aren't intuitives and mediums and psychics, they might also feel this. You are absorbing other people's energy, and you have to become aware of energy. Michael talks about energy all the time, because it can harm you, or it can bring you up, because people's emotions, you're receiving people's emotions and moods, and it could be anger, or it could be happiness, it could be love, it could be forgiveness. And we become more and more sensitive to these transmissions the more that we practice psychic abilities. And this energy may be healing or destructive to our well-being. We also can receive energy through other living things. We can receive energy through something in our environment. And again, we have to be aware of energy transmissions. What about you? Do you have anything to say about energy transmissions, Michael, before we bring our guest on?
I think an interesting way to look at energy, everything is energy, especially when we're dealing with psychic communication, healing, mediumship, all these different aspects to what we talk about. It is all energy. We are all energy. Energy, we're all connected, and everything comes from and goes to a different transmutation of energy. That's really what everything is. And I think an interesting thing, like the way I like to explain it is, think about, and this is really simplifying it, but think about electricity. Think about electric. We can't see it, but if we stick our finger in the socket, we're going to feel it. We know it's there. Think if we didn't have it in modern society, it would be completely different. And energy, it's truly, it's as important, if not more important, than traditional. Think about like electric, and we can't see it, but absolutely there, and it'll shock us if we don't respect it, and we abuse it. So we need to understand energy is something that is integral to all aspects of our well-being. Mind, body, spirit, all those connections, everything is interconnected in energy. And the more we can understand it and start to work with it, the more it's being utilized for our highest, best, and good. So the more people are, I would say, ignorant, I think at this point in time, there's so much information out there about it that if you're not looking into it a little bit or being aware of it to even some minor degree, then that's purely ignorance. And truly, people that aren't utilizing it are truly doing themselves a disservice, like the greatest disservice, because you can utilize that for anything: relationships, negotiating, looking at different scenarios and situations, and what is going to be the most conducive for your highest and best and your well-being. And that will trickle down also to those around you. I find when you're aligned, everything just starts aligning with that, so people, places, things. The hardest part is to just stay consistent and to keep the process going. One small step, one small step, one small step. A lot of times, we expect results very quickly. And it would be great if it all happened like that. But I think inevitably just staying consistent is probably the most productive thing we can do, utilizing energy and utilizing, understanding how we're putting our energy out. What energy are we taking in? Look at and assess the 5 situations in all aspects of energy. The 5 closest relationships to you, whether that's friends, family, coworkers. How are those 5 people that you're in contact for the highest amount of hours per week? How does their energy affect you? And that's one thing. Environments we're in. How long are we in certain environments, and how do those environments affect us, and how if it we feel it's affecting us in a in a negative way, how can we minimize our time in those environments or our time around those people or those scenarios? Granted, there's going to be situations that inevitably we can't not have, or not have to negotiate through. We all, deal with work environments, different people, different dynamics, especially in today's day and age. It's just a lot of people, it's about me, myself, and I. And I think when we can shift that and think, okay, it's not just about me, myself, and I, but, how am I presenting and bringing myself? How am I showing up? But in showing up, how am I also showing up for those people around me? And how am I being a support and, and a light? And I think we have to look at things like that. And we start shifting, then it goes from self-serving energy to energy of giving back. And I think that's the basis of manifesting, of allowing, positive energy to release and draw back into you, and we're thinking of everything in energy, so what we put out, what we release will come back to us, it pure will. And there's just so much. I don't want to just talk about woo-woo spirituality. People will say, oh, you're Mike, you're talking about energy. Oh, is that okay? No. There is science behind this. I mean, there is evidence. There is so much evidence behind this energetic connection that takes place in every situation, every scenario, every moment of our life, so we have to be aware of it. Otherwise we're doing ourself a complete injustice. And that's real. It's really that there is no easier way to say it. If you're not aware of the energy, you're putting yourself at a severe disadvantage at this day and age, I would say, in any aspect, especially people that are managing other people, that are navigating situations where you're dealing with large groups of people. If you're dealing with the general public, I've done workshops for retail, people in retail, just on energy. And I can tell you, for like small business owners or even large companies, and I'm not talking like hundreds and hundreds of employees, but even something as small as a mom pop thing where you're dealing with, under maybe 50 employees and some even a handful. The energy in a small situation like that can destroy something, like one bat, it's what you see. Do you ever see the image in the graphic of the two apples and the one was perfect and the rotten one was kind of leaning up against it and starts rotting the side of it away? And it's like, watch what you come in contact with or who you come in contact with. So we have to be very aware of that energy, very aware of the energy we're putting out, very aware of the energy that's coming back into us. So that's what I would say. Looking at energy and the transference of energy, be aware of the 5 primary people, places, and things that you're consistently coming in contact with, and how are they affecting you positively or negatively. And then what we try to do is draw more into the positive, less into the negative, until we have a really good ratio of much higher levels of positive association than negative association. And that's kind of a good guideline, I think, to really just look at and assess, where am I right now?
Yeah. I worked in this restaurant and I was a hostess. This was a number of years ago. And when we didn't have any customers come in, and it was a fancy restaurant, I would stand in the corner and then I would clear out all the negative energy out the front door. And so I would clear it all out, and then I would bring in the positive and, breath of fresh air, basically, bring in positivity. And then we'd get customers. And I remember the owner was like, how did you do that? What did you just do? Can you do that again? And it's time consuming and tiring, but we all carry some kind of, whether it's good energy or bad energy, like a good intention, and that's an extreme, but it's really about, what is it's a lot. When someone's energy, we're talking about a lot. We're talking about their characteristics. We're talking about what brings with them. It's how they handle things. It's how they communicate. And it doesn't even need to be spoken. You can tell. And it can change a situation. Good energy, positivity can change something negative or make an opportunity happen. When I think of an opportunity, I imagine light energy around it, positivity, because I want it to be positive and work out. And you think it's like you said, mumbo jumbo, oh, spiritual, woo, 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 but it's real. And
Yeah.
and I know this because that's what I do. I know, and maybe I'm just super optimistic, but it always works out. And then I just say whether I want the opportunity or not, then I decide. Maybe sometimes after I
Yeah.
work hard, I go no. And then sometimes I say yes. But
Well, my feeling is I tell people, look at, I don't talk about this stuff because I just think it's cool to talk about. I talk about this stuff because I've utilized it in my own life and it works 100%. I mean, hands down, it works, and that's why for me, that's why I talk about it, because these are the processes and procedures and the mindset and the tools that have allowed me to overcome major obstacles in life and severe adversity and lots of factors that
she wants to be committed. Okay,
well,
so
there we go. So
and I don't
it's
want to lose her
important.
again because she keeps coming. So
Let's
I'm
do
going to
it.
start
Let's do it.
talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
her. I'm going to start talking about her. Okay,
Yeah.
everyone, this is Riya Loveguard. I'm going to talk about her a bit before she comes on. We want to see you, Riya. I hope we're going to see you. Is a light language expert, spiritual activator, and energetics of business coach and strategist. She's known as a galactic polyglot, having the unique gift to channel at least 20 languages, light languages, and activate the same ability in her students for over 15 years. She's channeled languages such as Andromedan, Arcturian, Lyran, Avian, Feline, Sirian, Pleiadian. She's also able to access forgotten human civilizations of Lyra and Atlantis, I know I'm butchering, or the Mayan Empire. Now, if you go to her website, it's amazing because you can get free courses. And I know some light language, and I can understand, but I'm going to listen to as many as I can. So you can activate, master, and transform. What is light language? I know I can't wait to hear what she has to say. Is a powerful spiritual modality that you can activate and use for emotional healing, personal transformation, and connection with the metaphysical realm. It's accessible to anyone, no matter where you are on the spiritual development journey. You can use it personally to deepen your connection to the universe or add it to your practice as a spiritual healer and practitioner. You can activate it spontaneously during profound moments of spiritual awakening, Kundalini rising, meditation, and mindfulness, or deep energetic shifts. Okay, so here she is. How are you? I'm Mary, and this is Michael.
Hello,
Hi,
how are
very
you,
much.
Ryan? How are you? Now,
Very good.
where are you calling in from?
From Costa Rica.
Oh, excellent. Oh,
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm
yeah.
Polish originally, but living in Costa Rica.
Oh, wow. That had to be a big change, huh?
Oh my goodness me. I've lived all over the place. I'm a bit of a nomad, and I've moved intercontinentally a few times in my life, but I think I found
Excellent.
my home here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, how could you not? I'm sure your everyday surroundings are probably the most beautiful you've ever seen. Is it like what is it like? Give us a little rundown. What is Costa Rica like? What do you wake up in the morning and see and hear?
Um, well, actually, what wakes me up in the morning is the birds. And
Yeah.
since I've moved 3 years ago, you attune to the nature here. Nature is like
Mm,
at the forefront, and Costa Rica is like at least the part of Costa Rica where I live, which is rural, non-touristy. I'm in the mountains rather
mm,
than like most kind of people when they go on holiday, they go to the coast. I'm in the mountains. I'm in a completely
wow.
like a normal local village. So you wake up because birds wake you up and you attune to nature so that it's not, you don't need alarm clock. I wake up at 5:30 a.m. just naturally because I'm rested. I also go to bed very early since I've moved here. So it's
That,
almost like it's a taste of what like a better Earth or new Earth could feel like. It's
mm,
basically that's what it is. It's like where humans coexist with nature rather than the other way around where we dominate.
yeah. Wow. That must be fantastic. Now, are you able to to use any of like the natural herbs and nature medicinally or anything like that there, or what's?
I'm learning every day, and
Yeah.
since and I'm not talking like plant medicine as a psychedelics. That's
Mhm.
completely not my cup of tea. Even though this happens here a lot,
Yeah.
but I've tried, but it's not my stuff. However, what I've noticed since moving here is that it's almost like that ancient knowledge gets passed on,
Mm.
generation by generation. It hasn't been lost. So, for
Yeah.
example. At the moment, I've got severe iron deficiency. It's just something to do with how I've always been since a child, never been like a big meat eater, and I've just got very severe iron deficiency, poor absorption, etc. So I've contacted one of my neighbors, and she's like, I know this herbalist, and there is a plant extract you need to take, and it's
Mm.
called Karao kukulmeka. It's like two different plants. One is a tree, I think
Mm.
one is some kind of root. And I'm reading about it, and it's like, oh my goodness me, it's got like a high iron content, which is incredible. And it's like it's been like here since I've moved here. I just didn't know it existed. And there's other natural remedies for everything. And the best thing is, a lot of that stuff you can go to any shop, like sometimes even like at least in my village. I'm not sure what is like. I can't speak for all of Costa Rica, but here where I live, you go to like a local market and it's accessible. It's just like still that kind of natural remedies are just as popular as the kind of pharmaceuticals. It's the same even when I
Amazing.
take my dogs to a vet. They like before they put any antibiotic, they would say, "Oh, can you just maybe use coconut oil or something
Wow.
like
Yeah,
that."
it's amazing. Yeah. Wow. Now, how long have you been in Costa Rica?
3.5 years.
Wow. Okay. So that's it, huh? Final destination, Costa Rica.
So now I think that you know, do you know like when I think about home as a concept, I've got a
Mm.
bit of a idea that it can be more than one place. So
Hmm.
I like to base myself here, but I love other places as well.
Yeah.
And Costa Rica is beautiful, but it's very yin, it's very feminine. Sometimes I
Mm.
need this bit of a drive, so I go to a polar opposite, like Middle East, Dubai, Qatar, or something like that, just for that boost. Because here you just relax and you're just like,
Yeah.
well, I can just be. I don't have to do. And sometimes it's good to do too.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Balance is good, but that must be amazing just to absorb yourself in nature and just be surrounded by all that tranquility, that peaceful energy. Oh, that must be amazing. Mm, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
jealous. And it's funny because you being from Poland, it's funny. So I don't know if you know my background, but part of my family they were Hungarian gypsies, and and it's interesting. Just with that dynamic and thinking, it's funny. Just imagining, from being in Poland and ending up in Costa Rica, and it must be a pretty magnificent shift. But what I find most fascinating when we're interviewing people, when we're talking to people, is how did the shift occur? What was the story like? Where did this journey begin? Was it something that started really young? Did you come from like a very traditionally religious family out of Poland, or was there like spirituality and religion kind of mixed, or like where did the journey begin?
As traditional as it gets. As in, my parents weren't like super, let's say, devout, but they were Catholic, just like 90% of Polish society.
Yeah, yeah.
So my journey when it comes to spirituality has always been within the space that was available to me. And in my case, it was just the Catholic Church. And guess what? My light language activated in the Catholic Church. And
Mm,
within the
yeah.
kind of, let's say, confines of this version of spirituality, which at the time was the only one I knew about.
Hmm.
So I remember being like maybe 16 or 17 and reading the Bible, reading the New Testament and reading
Yeah,
about these incredible abilities that Jesus's disciples had. Like they could
yeah, yeah.
heal, speak in tongues, they could
Yeah.
do this and like step through fire, be
All
bitten
the
by snakes,
supernatural,
and
right?
all that's like, I'm like, I'm sure this is real. I'm sure
Yeah.
this is accessible. And I got somehow I got obsessed with this idea of activating these languages. I was like, there has to be the supernatural. I don't know how, but I know that there is more than this physical reality. There's the metaphysical. And well, lo and behold, I was at a Christian retreat at the age of 20 or something like that. And it activated.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, it's I find it fascinating, and that that was one aspect of my life. I had one side that was Hungarian gypsies, and I had that interesting aspect of spirituality, but the other side was devout Catholic, and I had, if anything was lost, it was Dear Saint Anthony. Something's lost, and it would show up, and my grandmother would find it. It didn't matter what she lost; she would say her prayer to the saints, and it showed up. So I knew
Oh
there was
yeah,
something there,
yeah. My grandmother also, yeah, Saint Anthony was definitely a big feature.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. Yeah, that's great. So it's funny, and it's always interesting. What I find is it really doesn't matter how we're opened and tuned into what the mystical supernatural realm, as long as we start understanding that something's there. We understand that there's more than this physical existence. And I think if a young age that can be fostered and grown, then that's a beautiful foundation that could start this journey.
Absolutely. Obviously, the journey never ends, always
Yeah.
continues. And it's not been linear, it never is. So, like, yeah, light language activated. But then the kind of normal everyday life in the system took over. So, I studied and I built businesses and um, I got married. I got married to another psychic, which was helpful. He was the visual. He like literally, it was quite funny because uh, as soon as we met, there was that feeling of familiarity. I met my husband in the Netherlands. I literally the day I left my country to study abroad was the day I met my partner, and the first feeling was, I know this guy from somewhere. He must be Polish. Well, he wasn't. He was Welsh. But later on, we discovered all our past lives together. But basically, we both had those gifts. But then there is the normal life, just kind of like make home, make money, just kind of exist. And it's almost like those spiritual abilities where, like, it was just a thing between us. We never felt it's something for other people or for the world or something to express ourselves as until when how my husband always says, the universe knocked us into alignment, and we, due to a series of really bad decisions, we kind of lost our business, we lost our income, we lost our investments. And we almost like at that stage, we had nothing more to lose. And we finally got the message that that's what we're doing now, which is working in the metaphysical realm was what we were meant to do all along.
Wow.
So yeah, that was the journey.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's amazing. And it's interesting how that's what I always say, when our soul is calling us, it will keep calling until we listen, right? And so and it's funny because same thing, I had many different paths in my life, but I was always being called back to my mediumship and this aspect of my life. And it was, I didn't feel like everything was aligned completely until I fully surrendered to this. And I'm sure you were the same way, it sounds.
Yeah, absolutely the same thing. And I witnessed that when working with clients, like you say, when thing like when we talk about like soul contracts, etc. I don't see it as a contract. Seeing like more like alignment blueprint is like
Yeah,
until
yeah,
you actually
yeah.
find, it's like a riverbed, until you actually find the sweet spot of a current, you're just bumping along against the current. Whereas when you
Hmm.
actually enter the flow where you was meant to do what you had always was calling, what you always gifted, things start to flow. And the thing is, It would be amazing if people didn't have to wait for a crisis or for some
Yeah.
kind of loss or accident, because usually what actually wakes us up like big time, it's either some health crisis, relationship crisis, or some financial crisis. One of the
Yeah.
three. Like, and I think it's amazing when people can embrace it
Mhm.
proactively rather than reactively, because then you
Yeah.
can have a beautiful, graceful path rather than such a kind of turbulent path.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, and it's interesting. Yeah, like me, I was a medium from a very small child and had these experiences, but it wasn't until I suffered a devastating loss in my life, and a loss unlike any other loss I ever had, where I really said, okay, that's it. This is I in my healing, it's truly because I'm able to connect with spirit, and I was able to connect with the one I lost, the person that I loved and lost. And it was interesting. If I wasn't able to do that, the grief would have been so debilitating. I don't know how I would have made it through. And it was in that energy that I found all the healing. And it was, and it's interesting when, yeah, and it really is interesting how grief can propel us into that, almost force us to see it and force us to not be distracted by life. It really, here it is. It's the universe is dropping it in your lap, and there's no way around it. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, my message is always like, if you have these little nudges, if your heart always knows. I feel like I use the term hearts through desires a lot, because the heart operates on the language of desires. We actually
Yeah.
intrinsically know what we're meant to do, what we want to do, what we're good at as well. And somehow it's all the layers that we build on top of the conditioning, all the kind of
Mm.
expectations, and that's what actually stops us from doing what we meant to do in the first place. And I think when like a devastating loss of a loved one, or like a complete shift in health, some kind of crisis happens, it's almost, it strips those layers
Yeah.
back, and then we're back to that pure core that we truly are.
I'm sorry, I'm going to say Raya. That's how you say your name. I want to say it
No,
properly.
actually, Ria, like
Yeah.
IKEA.
Okay. See, I'm not.
Ria.
It's Ria.
Ria.
Okay. Glad for your saying. So Ria, can you explain to our audience and us exactly what you believe light language to be? What does it feel like? And is it an extra, is is it an extraterrestrial language?
Okay, it can be extraterrestrial, it doesn't have to be. So let's just kind of I'm going to use my own definition
Yeah.
and my own understanding, because when I even when I write articles about it, I can see that there is a lot of just almost like misconceptions, myths, and as well as regurgitated knowledge about it, where now in the age of artificial intelligence, things just get passed on without really understanding. My understanding of light language is experiential, and it's very much my attitude towards it is that of almost like a scholar, even though it's not official, like, university approved subject, but I always seek, I analyze samples, etc. So what I understand light language to be is not communication predominantly, because someone at some point gave it a name, language, and that name boxes it in, and I think it boxes it in not quite correctly. So basically, light language, in my own definition, is channeling energy in the form of sound. Or it could be in the form of writing, because some light languages are written. But how I express light language is through sound. So it's actually a transmission of energy. And at times, that transmission will carry communication, but it's not the predominant thing that light language does. It's basically just energy expressed in the form of sound. And sometimes there will be a message that will come with it. By all means, you can understand it, you can interpret it. But I think the most important thing in embracing the power of light language is when we stop thinking about light language as communication and start embracing it as what it truly is, which is energy. And now, as to the question whether it's extraterrestrial language, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. The expression of energy, its source, can come from pretty much anywhere. You can channel your own soul, you can channel energy of extraterrestrial beings, you can channel the land. This is something that surprised me when I first, it happened to me in Australia. I used to live in Australia for a number of years, and I remember sat down on rocks, very ancient place in the north of Western Australia where there's dinosaurs' footprints, and I'm sat on those rocks just meditating, like sitting in silence, contemplating, not like a formal meditation. I'm just sitting there in nature, and I can feel this language rising, and it's none of my extraterrestrial ones that I know. It's the language of the land coming through. And then the same thing happened when I was on an aircraft coming to land in Mexico. And then the same thing happened over and over again. Whenever I go to new places, you can channel the land. You can channel pretty much any energy. But predominantly, when I analyze samples of my students, lots of those light languages are of extraterrestrial origin. Sometimes it could be ancient civilizations of Earth, so Lemuria and Atlantis, but it has to be usually like a conscious civilization that leaves an imprint like that. So there is like this channeled consciousness, I would say.
So the first time that you expressed to us when you were 20 and you activated your light language, what was the language you activated, and can you give us an example of it?
Sure. So my first light language was Arcturian, and I didn't know at the time it was Arcturian light language. And it was quite, I wouldn't say scary, because it never felt scary. It always felt very welcome. It was a very active process for me, activating this light language. It was, I would say, ceremonial. I was super excited. I always refer to it as the best day of my life. Like literally, I was elated when it happened. And it happened quite late in the evening. I spent the entire night just walking around and marveling at what was coming out of my mouth, which was Arcturian light language. But I didn't know it was Arcturian until I connected to the Arcturians about 10 years after. But Arcturian light language sounds quite harsh. And I think that's another myth about light language. When we hear the word light, we think it's going to be, light, bright and airy, pleasant to the ear. Not all of them are. Arcturian sounds very much like Arabic. It definitely has that kind of feeling to it. Shall I give you a sample?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see.
Nuhu shakaria hasiatera ia mahat ramahatia leheta shuru husia her ia hash atahamia hasikia mahat rihatara sera ashturu uhaseya mahet arasht urahetaya. Should I translate?
Yes.
What's interesting is I could feel the energy from it. And what's interesting is it seems very well. So just share. So it's interesting. I'd like to have this dialogue of overall, before you explain it to us, I just sense like a welcoming and like an explaining of the connection and the energetic connection between us and between our civilizations and between our consciousness. And I just feel that was the energy that was coming to me. So I'm just curious.
You guys are psychics. Of course you understand.
I understand friendship. I heard this.
Is that what it was? No, seriously. Is it like, what was it exactly? Because the energy it felt very welcoming.
It is by nature like that, but I want to hear from Mary.
Okay, I'm saying no. I actually, I'm here. We are here. And I heard welcoming. If you go back through it, I could try to understand what you said. But I know at the end you talked about friendship. That's what I got.
You know, I would say that the essence of Arcturian light language is unconditional love. Is that
Mm.
kind of like you say, friendship, friendliness. It's basically non-judgment. It's like that welcome as you are. So the light language carries that energy. That because that's the essence of who Arcturians are, completely non-judgmental. Just the beings that
Mm.
operate in this like loving consciousness. Now, there was
Yes, very
also,
very supportive.
yeah, there was
Mm.
also a layer to this light language, which was almost like attuning everybody who's listening to this podcast to be open, to open the heart, open the ears to this whole concept. And perhaps there will be things that are almost like to the conscious mind feel a bit maybe strange or weird or new. And it's almost like embrace it, open yourself up to it, almost like attuning you to receive what you meant to receive from this.
It's a good feeling. I have a very good feeling right now. I mean, it's just an instantly good feeling. So I mean, I'm fascinated with Arcturian because I actually had one Arcturian visit me 3 times until I adjusted my vibration so that I could understand what he was saying.
And how did it go?
It was funny because the first time he came to me, he didn't talk. The second time he looked like this. And he was like, and I didn't realize that it looked like that to me, but that's not how he was talking. But then the third time it just flowed where like it was a slower pace. I just wasn't at the right vibrational frequency to understand him. It's
Mhm.
very interesting. So that maybe that's why it made me feel good what you said.
Yeah, it's probably you already know the frequency.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. So how did you get 20? Is it 20 that you know? You
I
spoke.
lost count. At least 20. It just basically I can pretty much given an energy I can express it in the form of sound. So how does it happen? Well, it happens when I connect because light language is going off memories. So getting to know various frequencies for someone who is a visual psychic will give them visions. Like you say, oh, I saw an Arcturian, it looked like that. For me, what happens is the language activates. And so basically, what happened, so I had the Arcturian light language without knowing it was Arcturian. Then when my spiritual awakening like started in 2019, let's say the second wave of my spiritual awakening, the adult one, because obviously I've had these gifts like for nearly 20 years now. Um, how it happened was first I connected to Arcturians. Oh, Arcturians connected to me. They were preparing me before my whole business fell apart, before I was super stressed. They started coming through. I was already open enough outside of my, let's say, Christian confines of my understanding. I was meditating just to kind of calm my crazy life and try to make sense of stuff. I was practicing mindfulness just for well being. And that gave them an opening to come. And they came to me for the first time in this kind of like semi lucid dream state. I lived in Australia. I was running a business in Poland. I was teaching a webinar and it ended at 2 a.m. because of the time difference. And I was tired but wired. So I just sat on the sofa and I started like listening to some guided meditation. And all of a sudden, just it all unfolded. And as I said, I'm not normally visual, but this was a very strong visual experience, which was almost like it's about time you wake up. I was in this space, which I understand to be the fourth dimension, where time and space almost like run parallel. So past, present, and future happens at the same time. It's almost difficult to explain it in words, but that's what it felt like. I was in one moment and I already knew what was happening before, what will happen after. And I met this female being, Arcturian being, light blue skin, very delicate features. She felt very cold. She said, I come from a cold planet. She didn't say I'm Arcturian. She said, I come from a cold planet and it's about time. And she basically gave me a set of instructions what to do to expand. She said, follow the grid, follow the blue light, and learn about sacred geometry. That was the three things. And she presented herself as Celeste. I know this is not an Arcturian name. It was just something for me to digest. and basically follow the grid, follow the blue light, and learn about sacred geometry. So at that time, we were very soon, we were about to enter the lockdown and stuff like that, because it happened at the end of 2019. So comes 2020, we're in Australia. We are locked down. So how do I learn about sacred geometry? She showed me a book. She actually showed me a book that I found on Amazon, the exact cover. There was some really difficult, dense reading. It was very mathematical about sacred geometry. I'm like, I don't even understand. So what did? I went on Gaia. I typed in sacred geometry because I thought, let's just make it easier. And Matthias De Stefano's series called Initiation came on. And I was watching and starting to remember. Literally, as I was watching it, memory started coming back. And when he mentioned Arcturians, I said, like, these were Arcturians. 100%, that was Arcturians. So then the next step came, follow the grid. So I thought, well, there's an energetic grid of the Earth. I'm kind of aware of that, but where do we go? Everything is locked down. If we leave Australia, we can't come back because the borders are locked. So we thought, we're going to go to the only place in Australia which feels like we think is energetically charged. We're going to go to Uluru. So my husband and I just packed our Nissan Patrol with a rooftop tent and just hit the road. And as we were on the way to Uluru, we kept seeing these signs for cattle grids, which was just grid, yellow and black signs, grid. Okay, and we thought it's like a spirit making a joke with us. Follow the grid. We're following the grid. And then in Uluru, then my husband's all memories came back from his life in Arcturus, from his family in Arcturus, and we started connecting to Arcturians much easier. And I think we needed a deeply spiritually charged place in the middle of the Australian desert in order to almost like activate us to make our connection easier. Just like there are some special places that make that connection easier, almost like to attune us again. And then it was easy. Then we didn't need any special places. And then we were just kind of like connecting to them. They were teaching us stuff, and they were teaching us stuff not just in a linear way, in messages. It's almost like our whole consciousness shifted. And then the Arcturian said to us, well, you need to go and meet other galactic races. We're not the only ones. We're not precious. So go meet the Pleiadians, go meet the Sirians. So we did. And every time we were making that conscious connection, what was happening is my husband was getting the visuals, he was getting the information about those civilizations and messages, and I was getting the language. And it happened over and over again. And, you know, the first few galactic races like the Lyrans, the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, it was happening. And then it was more of a case, sometimes a client would come to us who was, let's say, an Alpha Centauri starseed, and then that connection would be formed because of something that we needed to do for a client, and then we would get to know that particular galactic race, and then the language would activate in me. And that's how it happened. And it just keeps happening. Just maybe not so intensely where I need to have those many connections, because sometimes it feels like having a huge family where, you know, there's so many of them and you don't know where to connect to next.
Do you ultimately, do you believe that you're going, when these races surface and we actually, humanity sees, are you going to be the communicator to them, with them?
No, I think that we all have the capacity. I don't believe in like, you know, like a chosenness paradigm. I like, at the moment, I'm one of many, let's say, ambassadors to galactic star races. So, but
Don't
I'm not like,
minimize this. Don't minimize this. This is something. This is an
no,
achievement.
Genuinely, I'm here as an activator. So I'm here not to be like, oh, here I am speaking for Arcturians. I can't do that. It's more like I'm here to activate other people who have the same abilities, other star seeds, so that they can communicate directly. That's kind of my job. So I don't see myself as like, the mouthpiece for the galactic.
You never know. You're shutting it down already.
No. It's just like I think I know what my role is, and my role is that of an activator. So it's always like more about not me just communicate. Of course, when I can, I do that because not everybody is open, not everybody's got the ability. So I channel the energy to help people heal emotionally, to do all sorts of things, to help people's businesses. And I'll continue doing this. But what actually brings me the most amount of joy and what I feel like it's my role is to get people to be able to do what I do rather than me doing it for them.
Right. Well, it's unbelievable because I mean I haven't met anybody. You said there's other people. I don't know. I haven't met anybody else who has 20 light languages that they
Okay. Well, that is the case. Like, okay. So basically, people do speak light languages. People do channel different galactic races, but my uniqueness comes in the fact that I am so versatile. I can connect to so many, and I remember so many. So that what my role is also is to help people recognize those energies because a lot of people activate light language, and just like myself for 10 years, just don't understand what they channel. So this is where I come. And, there are people who channel light languages and who see it as light languages sacred, it's not meant to be understood and all of that. And it's not made to be labeled. And I understand and respect that could be a perspective on light language. My kind of input to this whole tapestry of spiritual community is to help people recognize and remember because there's a lot of people who have been extraterrestrial beings. There are so many star seeds that when they make that connection to the energy that feels like home, something wonderful happens. They just start feeling comfortable again on planet Earth. They feel like they belong. They feel like they understand who they are. So if I can help people recognize, okay, that feeling that comes from Arcturians or that feeling that comes from Pleiadians, then I feel like that really helps.
Now, is there a certain sensation or certain variable that occurs when you're experiencing different types of light language? Like what shift happens, or does it unify and you all of a sudden kind of shift from one to the next? Or can you take us through a little bit of that and what you're experiencing?
To be fair, for me, this is as normal as switching between English, Polish, and Spanish.
Yeah, okay.
So I could say, oh my God, yeah, I feel like no.
But is that how you would explain it? Like understanding the three languages, it's almost as just another language that's thrown. Okay, so that's interesting. Just kind of what your perspective
is when the light language first activates, it's a very beautiful experience. It feels powerful. You can feel it, you can sense it. But what I feel happens when you well-versed, when you're swimming in this energy, it's like you so attuned to it, it becomes like your second nature. It almost doesn't feel external to you anymore. So I can channel something, I don't know, on TikTok for 60 seconds and people will be commenting saying that they felt this and they felt that and it was so powerful and whatever. And for me, it's like no different than speaking here with you in a human language because for me, those energies are so normal, and sometimes I actually forget that this is still not mainstream and normal because it does feel very, very, very normal. Now, when you are doing an energy transmission, yes, from time to time it will come with different sensations. Sometimes it's tingling in the hands, sometimes you feel sensations in your energetic body which correspond to where the energy is transmitted to. And also each one of these energies does feel different. If you want to, we can do a little experiment and I take like some polar opposites and see how you guys feel about these different light languages. Do you want to do that?
Love it.
Yeah, let's try it.
Let's try it. So I'm going to start with Syrian light language. And I'm not going to tell you what it's meant to be like or feel like. You just experience it. And same with the listeners. Make a decision for yourself. What does Syrian energy feel like to you? If you were to describe it, what does it feel like? And it's not going to be any particular message. I'm just going to like give you like a transmission of Syrian energy in the form of light language. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
So experience and tell me what this energy feels like. Eka made era aka uru eda ama ase e kira. Era ade e usu e karade. Nare eka ama ase era uru eda ama. Kira ama ate era are eda seka akurudera sara atera ama ete. Ia uru arasera akamusu tera ame. Kera ara, kera ana esere.
Are you going first, Mary, or am I?
For me, it felt very settled and grounded and not slow paced, but very, how do I say it? Like filling in, make a connection that it's all filled in and powerful, like helping. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say like filling in the blanks, because that the energy came to me of like teaching, explaining, presenting an understanding, kind of, so directions, directive, so like a teaching type of energy.
And it's all what you said. Basically, Syrian energy is very ancient, very wise, but also very grounding, which is what Mary mentioned.
Yeah.
Many times people describe it like a heavy, comforting blanket, like something that just feels like you said, slow, but in a way like comforting slow. And
Yeah.
and Syrians are very matter of fact, very conscious. Syrian starseeds are very like, there's always some room for improvement. So you get it. That's it. So should we try a completely different one so you can feel like the difference? Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I bring you the energy of Lyran Avian race. Totally different, very pleasant. Kiriatia sutruya seletia kulutia sera maratera sir druya saradia da sikalatra kulusukuria rdira sira de la saratia musuru dia sera de ala era curia drea seatia siendo cositara ta situ tu seretia salate kasu ricalata sicarania turu seria tra saria te asuru dia salatia turu dia saria tre kasitru tu suria tiasa.
What's interesting for me, so when you first the first time you went through and you were doing the light language transmission, I didn't close my eyes, and I was purely listening, and I was just focusing on you and your energy. This time I went a little more inward and I closed my eyes, and it's very interesting because I started seeing a portal open, and it had this really wild, like, blue. It was almost like a cobalt blue color, and it started opening and looked like an eye. But what's interesting is I just started feeling bonding, connection, family, lineage, and I don't know why, like, that was the energy of like a bonding family, looking over tradition, passing on tradition. So it was like a connection, and it also interesting, your tone and the way you were enunciating. Oh, I almost felt like I was being pulled to some kind of like South American ethnicity, or like a Spanish, or like something like, I felt like I was going to South America somewhere, like almost kind of had that essence to it. And I just felt like family. And it's interesting because when I feel that and I think about, some of the families, there's large families and large connection and lineage and history. So that's what I got from it.
Mary, what about you?
This was different because some of it, when you're listening, and this comes down to when you read someone, it's like, are you going to accept this? You're going to say that's not what you're getting. So I have to go with what I was getting. So it was interesting because I was getting this like if someone was dancing around, people were dancing around a dance, like a dance floor. So it was like kind of a spinning, and it was an explanation, and it was very polite. That's what I got. Like it was just,
Okay, let me tell you about Lyran Avians then, because you, as always, I would expect from you guys, you're getting it all correct. So Lyran Avians indeed, or are like what you said, Michael, where lineage, family, ancestors is massive things. They're very similar to us humans. They look
Yeah.
pretty much like us. They just have these huge wings. They look like angels.
Mm.
If they tuck their
Very cool.
wings, we wouldn't even know they're different. We would just probably think they are very good-looking humans. Uh, the sound of the language sometimes reminds me of Spanish. Obviously, I live in a
Yeah.
Spanish-speaking country, so it does remind me of that. But the essence of it is exactly the very reverent of the ancestry, Avians. And also, what's very
Mm.
interesting about this
Yeah.
society is they follow the footsteps of the ancestors. So if let's say a family was in the medical field, then the children would do the same. But the marriages or like the unions aren't forced. It's almost like they choose it to strengthen the line because the knowledge is passed by the very physical DNA. Now, where
Mm.
Mary's kind of feeling comes from, dancing or that lightness, first of all, their energy is freedom. They've got wings. They kind of the essence of the kind of race is freedom, but they also massive lovers of arts. So poetry, music, dance, that's just the essence of the society. But the energy is so much lighter than the Sirian energy, wouldn't you agree? It like it feels like more, I don't know, sophisticated, delicate. It doesn't feel as like Sirian energy just feels like boom, like
Mm.
more heavy, let's say, but in a good way.
I loved
Yes,
it.
that was a very interesting experiment. I have to say, I think one of the most interesting that we've done on the show to date. That was really, really cool. I
This is
like that.
fascinating. I think this is
Yeah.
deep. See, what I know already, and this is why I was drawn to you to bring you on the show, is that you are an activator, and just your energy and your words, whether you're speaking in light language or you're speaking in English, it's doing something to all of us, and it's like it's like not it's like breaking us up from I guess the programming we've had, all over us, not just, our minds, our ears, our heart, everything in a good way. And it's just molding us into whatever we're supposed to be in a good way. And that's what you do. So the language that you're expressing to us is helpful in doing that, because this is like a whole other it's so advanced, this energy.
It helps you remember because these energies. When you feel this kind of, some of them will feel almost familiar. Maybe not these that we've expressed today, but some of them feel familiar. As your soul remembering, it's almost like it is about remembering who you are beyond just this human experience, this kind of little part of your soul's big journey. And that's what light language does.
When I was bringing you on, I wanted to share with everyone before you came on, but I didn't get to, explain everything. You have many free courses in light language. You also work with business coaches, or you teach you teach business coaches?
Yeah, I am an entrepreneur. I always have been. So since I've awakened, I'm helping mostly spiritual entrepreneurs, but just down to earth bricks and mortars businesses as well with the metaphysical side. So yes, but mostly my kind of mission is to help people who are very talented in the craft, usually spiritual craft, to actually find a way into this like social media world, because it's sometimes so challenging to do for many. So yes, I do stuff like that too.
You also transcend dimensions, galactic activation portals, and Michael mentioned he saw a portal. So can you tell us a little bit about what that means, galactic activation portals?
Galactic Activation Portal is my free 21-day mini course. It's like a little beginner's course into the galactic stuff. So you can go on my website, riyalovegard.com, and Galactic Activation Portal is a beautiful 21-day journey where every day there's like a little bit of energy. And then, of course, I do also like, paid programs, more advanced, etc. But that Galactic Activation Portal is like your first step to get to know these galactic energies and experience them. So, like, first of all, there will be showing a little bit of different spiritual abilities that starseeds have, beyond, the kind of the, let's say, the ordinary. It will also be getting people acquainted with the Arcturians and the Pleiadians and the Sirians, and actually letting them feel energy, just like we doing it here in like a small thing, but it's like a self-paced 21 days, mostly in audio, partly in video, where people can just experience and remember, because that's exactly like I said before, that's a part of what I do, is to help people remember. And sometimes it's almost difficult to put it into words, but like you say, something unlocks, something activates.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I was activating. Portal was opening.
It's been open, Michael. Because we're in it right now here on this show. What's Pleiadian? I don't know if I've ever heard Pleiadian light language. What does that sound like? I didn't know.
It sounds like two Eastern European women that haven't seen one another for about a few years and get very excited. When I kind of express it, you will know. Ready for Pleiadian?
Yeah, I'm dying for it.
Yeah, it's very high pitched, and it's like, ooh, okay.
Sounds like some kind of animal, a bird, or right? Doesn't sound like the
It
others.
doesn't sound human.
Pardon me? Like
It
a
doesn't
fast
sound
speaking.
human.
Pardon me? What'd you say?
Have I lost connection here? Oh, you guys still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, because
Yep, I can hear you.
we've got a first storm
Yeah,
of the rainy season here in Costa Rica, so maybe there's a bit of a lag because of the weather conditions.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear us?
Yes, all good.
Okay, so the Pleiadian, you said, sounds like two women speaking to each other. Can you tell us what you said?
To be honest, I wasn't really tuning in so much to it was just a pure transmission of Pleiadian energy. And I say it's like the sound is like in my country, whereas a couple of women that haven't seen each other get super excited, like, "Whoa," like they like super high pitched. That's what Pleiadian sounds like. But what the transmission of this energy is totally different. It's the transmission of almost like photonic light. It's the energy of acceleration. It's also very cleansing energy. So Pleiadian is great for like clearing any kind of densities, any attachments, sometimes even for clearing negative energy. Sounds like an energetic, like no sounds. It doesn't sound like that. It is like an energetic jet wash. Basically just cleanse.
I'm gonna have some dreams tonight, I'll tell you that much. I am.
You've been activated.
Again, for the 100th time. Would you like to share with us anything else? We've kept you on for almost an hour now. Anything else that you would like to share with our listeners, the viewers? Something that's important to you, whatever, however much you want to say?
I would like to just give one like final message is that if all these kind of like metaphysical things cannot be molded into the old way of being and the old human, let's say, mainstream understanding. So what I would say is don't judge the book by its cover. So light language is not about what it sounds like. And just the fact that it's perhaps at the moment more of a fringe for human society doesn't mean that, it's anything to be afraid of. Also, I would like to express a message to those of you who are listening and remembering that maybe you've spoken languages like that as a child, because I do often come across people who say, oh my goodness me, I thought it was a made-up language that I was speaking to my siblings. Maybe you're making some other sounds that don't sound anything like what you've heard on the show or when you hear other people speaking light languages. Trust that inner feeling and what it makes you feel like beyond anything else, beyond, this is strange, this is unusual, what would people say, etc., etc. Just trust that inner feeling. That's all I would say.
Well, I'd like to say thank you so much for being here and sharing all those very interesting languages of light with us. That's just been very intriguing, especially seeing that and kind of sitting with that energy. So that's been fascinating. I think it's something I'll have to explore a little bit more now. But thank you so much for being here. Now, anyone listening, what's going to be the easiest way for them to find you on social media? And if they want to experience this light language and learn it for themselves, what's going to be the best way to find you?
I'm pretty much on all social media platforms, mostly focusing on TikTok and Instagram. At Super Starseed is my handle, at Super Starseed or Riya Loveguard. And yeah, have a look on my link tree. There's lots of resources. A lot of them are free. And also, if you are interested in light language in general, and it's like, oh, I want to explore, there's a free masterclass that you can find on my link tree or all these kind of like link pages where you can get a little bit more into conscious understanding of what it is, because today it was more about you experiencing rather than you learning about it. So go explore, fill your boots, and if you fancy, you can reach out to
That's fantastic.
I'm going to say I'm really appreciative that you are giving and you're healing and you're allowing like all of this to come out of you and share it with everyone, because it's needed right now. And I'm so grateful. This was a lot of different emotions for me. This was a lot of fun. It did feel like home to me, a lot of this communication tonight, these sounds that I heard, these tones, and it just felt like, like I was wrapped around, something was wrapped around me and made me feel really safe. So I know it was a good thing for us, and I know it's a good thing for anyone who's going to listen. And I'm very, very grateful that you joined us, because I know you're super busy and there's definitely a time change from where you are to here. So I appreciate you that you gave it your all tonight and shared light language. I'm going to say to everyone out there that I recommend you look at what's the website address?
RiyaLoveguard.com. Very simple.
you go look at that because I started listening to the Arcturian light language. There's so many videos on there that were helpful and courses. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, Rhea, thank you so much. It's been fascinating. Really appreciate that. And when Mary and I are going on our Bigfoot expedition and trying to track Bigfoot, if we end up in Costa Rica, you know, we're definitely going to bring you aboard on the on the search.
Have you heard Bigfoot?
No, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. I don't know if you will find a Bigfoot in Costa Rica, but if you ever go here into the jungle, you may find other lovely and interesting creatures.
It doesn't matter if we find one there or not. We're just gonna figure out a way to go there. No, you've been fascinating.
Does he have a language?
What's that?
Does Bigfoot have a language?
If I ever met him, then probably I would start speaking in some kind of language.
Okay, well, maybe you will, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's all telepathic. Maybe there is a language there. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see you again. I'm sure we will. Probably in person.
Okay, very, very nice to meet you. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Everyone listening, Riya Loveguard. Find her on social media, on her website. If you're interested in light language, she will take you on that fascinating journey like she just did with us. But thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here tonight with Two Psychics.
Thank you. Wow, that was so great. I loved it. Loved it.
Oh, I'm in the zone now. Now I'm ready.
I know.
I'm ready to. I'm in the zone and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to lay down.
We're gonna have some. I'm telling you, we're gonna have cast of thousands when we get we're gonna have some kind of event and have all these guests. It's gonna be amazing.
Cool. I'm still just thinking.
I missed what you just said. What?
You know, have like a toucan land on your, you know, on your window ledge, and you know, just pick a banana off the banana tree, you know, or shake the tree for a coconut to drop. You know, it's got to be amazing.
She's fascinating. I did not even know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, how cool is that? That's something. Costa Rica. Wow.
And what she can do. That was wow.
Yeah. What was interesting for me is when I just started focusing inward and I started experiencing all the visuals opening. So that was an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, you know what?
Oh.
Who knows? I don't know. This is great. This is number 50. Number 50. Okay, so everyone, we have upcoming guests next week. And I promise I'm going to get someone we'll do a reading on someone next week. We have Stacy Schaefer. I don't know where she's from. She's from the States. Mediumship, energy healer channel. Again, we have multiple people upcoming, and you know, we have 4 more guests, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to get on someone else's podcast. And Michael, how's your?
Well, everyone just needs to follow Two Psychics.
I know.
Follow Two Psychics, and they will be notified about it immediately.
That's right.
Whatever we got going
on Facebook. Two Psychics podcast.
I know. I want, you know, but let's see. What is it? We're May, June, July. Let's, you know, I'll tell you what. If we can hit 3,000 people by July, I think we give away maybe a couple readings, right? You and I, maybe we do 2 or 3 combined readings, 2 or 3 different people. We'll give them away, but what they're gonna have to do is like and follow or like and share our page. So go to Two Psychics on Facebook, Two Psychics Podcast, like and share the page, and you will be entered. So I think we track that from now to maybe July 4th, and then some point mid-July we pick 3 people that have liked and shared the Two Psychics Facebook podcast page, and you get into the raffle for a reading. I think that might be a way that we hit 3,000.
And you can reach Michael at eyeofthespirits.com if you would like a psychic reading or learn about any upcoming events he has, I'm maryamyofficial.com. My website is getting fixed. But you can still look at it. We have merchandise, Two Psychics Radio merchandise on Spreadshop, and there's 2 different brand logos. And you can find me on Mary Amy Official and Michael on Michael Edley, or I have the spirits, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We put this on Rumble, YouTube, and Spreaker, and all the other.
We're almost everywhere. Almost everywhere. So just look for us, search us, and you'll find us.
Everywhere. We are everywhere. Okay, so it's been a beautiful evening, and I think we're all gonna have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Have a
East Coast.
fantastic night. And remember that energy that you put out there will come back. So be mindful of the energy transmission, and have a great day and night and rest of the week and weekend.
We'll see you next week, next Thursday.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Good night.